It's 9 o'clock and time to begin our, let me turn this on, you probably hear me better. There we go. We start our morning Bible study here at Colonial Heights. We have some visitors with us today. We're sure glad to have you. Hope you can be back with us again, and we appreciate your interest in coming out and studying from God's Word and worshiping Him this morning. If you haven't picked up a book yet and you want one, I put a few back on the back table for Ecclesiastes. It's not anything, it's not a textbook. It's just the Ecclesiastes in New King James Version, I believe, and it just has note pages. So it's like a page of text and the other page is notes. If you like something like that to take any notes in, you're welcome to pick one of those up. Pick one of those up and use it. So let's let everybody get to sit down here, and then we'll start with a word of prayer. Let's go to God in prayer. Our God and our Father in heaven, we're thankful for this beautiful day that you've given us. We're thankful for the time and the privilege we can come out as your children today and study from your word. We're thankful for you for leaving us your word for us to consider and for us to take to heart and apply in our lives to help us be more as you would have us to be. We pray that you'll bless us in our study here this morning as we study Ecclesiastes and the wisdom and things that are provided for us here to help us to learn from it and make our lives better and, again, make us more pleasing to you. We're thankful for all our classes and all our teachers and the effort that goes into it. We pray that you'll bless us here as we grow together to become stronger Christians and love one another more. We pray for any of our number that are sick, that you'll bless them with better health. We're especially mindful of Lacey and Janet and their battles with cancer, and Janet as she's recovering from her surgery, that you'll bless them and, again, any others that are sick among us. We're thankful for Jesus and him dying for us. We pray that you'll forgive us of our sins. We make this prayer in his name. Amen. All right, so we're continuing today in Ecclesiastes chapter 2. I think I blew by the theme verse last week, but everybody could probably have picked it out, without even me telling you what it is. That from the end of the chapter, the end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. So I will not be here next Sunday. So Rodney is going. I'll be traveling. Rodney is going to be teaching next Sunday. We got here a little early. I told Rhonda, but I didn't get hit. I said, I'm going to hide. And you tell her when Rodney walks in, say, Jeff really appreciates you teaching today. and see what he says. But oh well, it didn't work out. But it's a good thought anyway, I guess. So for him to go, oh. So we'll continue here. So I think I need 4 readers. Can I start on this side? So Jordan, Buddy, you get to read. Mac and Ken, that work? Okay. Go ahead, Jordan.
It says in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. But behold, this is also vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad. Pleasure, what use is it? I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine. My heart still guiding me with wisdom. And how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good for the children of man who under heaven during the few days of their life. I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself
Then I saw that there was more gain in wisdom than in folly, as there is more gain in light than in darkness.
The wise person has his eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. And yet I perceived that the same thing happens to all of them. Then I said in my heart, what happens to the fool will happen to me also. Why then have I been so very wise? And I said in my heart that this is also vanity. For of the wise as of the fool there is no enduring remembrance, seeing that in the days to come all will have long been forgotten. How the wise dies just like the fool. So I hated life, because what is done under the sun was grievous to me, for all is vanity and striving after wind. I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool, yet he will be master of all in which I toil and use my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity.
So I turned about and gave my heart up to despair over all the toil of my labor under the sun. Because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who did not toil for it. This also is vanity and great evil. What has a man from all the toil and striving heart with which he toils beneath the sun? For all his days of roam full of sorrow, and his work is vexation. Even in the night his heart does not rest. This also is vanity. There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him who can eat or who can have enjoyment. For to the one who pleases him God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he has given the business of gathering and collecting, only to give to one who pleases God. This also is vanity and striving after wind.
Okay, thank you. So last time we talked out, again, we ended up with one word and two phrases. What's our word that we see repeated over and over again here? Vanity or meaningless. And what were our two phrases? We saw it in this reading a couple times. Striving after the wind. And what was the other one? Under the sun. Yeah, when he talks about all these things. So it begins here in chapter 2, verse 1. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself, but behold, this is also vanity. So what we're going to see in this chapter is the teacher on this quest of finding meaning and pleasure, testing whether the pursuit of all these experiences, and most of them, not all of them, but several of them would be things we would probably consider sinful things that he is considering here to bring fulfillment. But when I read this, the first question that came to my mind is why? Why do you think Solomon or the preacher, how you want to think about who we're talking about here, why would you make a decision to do this? To test your heart with pleasure? Mark?
You see it all day long in the world. People are empty and they're looking after something and they're like, oh, they'll try to find it here or here. He had unrestricted looking. He could look anywhere for anything he wanted, and he was looking to fill something that was a void, is my guess.
Yeah, anybody else? Anybody?
With what Art just said, this perspective is from a king with everything. But it still applies to the poor person with nothing. All of this striving after things that are physical is vanity.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we see this day over day in our world, right? This pursuit of happiness through material goods, through entertainment, through indulgence, and all these things. But because, like Art said, that there's something there that's empty, that folks are trying to fill, and this is a pursuit that you can take if you so choose. Did I see a hand over here? Okay. All right. So then he starts with laughter. Is laughing a bad thing?
Too much is.
Too much could be, right? You know, we see proverbs that talk about what is it, like laughter is good for your bones or something like that. You know, that there's things that experiencing experiencing pleasure or joy or things like that, there's nothing wrong with that unless what? Yeah, that's all you're after, right? If you're seeking your fulfillment by thinking, well, if I can laugh more or I can be happier, then that's gonna get me there, get me to the place I want to be. Yeah, His wisdom here for us is that no, that's not going to work. Then what we see next, we see wine. So, well, laughing didn't work. Well, let's go out and drink. So, is wine going to fulfill us? You know, it's kind of interesting. Again, some of the I talked about how this book works. So I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine. My heart's still guiding me with wisdom. Like, wait a minute, does that make a lot of sense, Rodney? Go ahead.
Well, that's what it seems like a contradiction to me.
Yeah.
How do you drink wine and hope that your heart will guide you with wisdom because it takes the wisdom away?
Yeah, and that I might lay hold on folly, that I can see what was good for the children of man. Yeah, it's almost like he's saying, well, my wisdom told me that I should go try wine and see what kind of folly I can get into and see how good that is, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Go ahead, Danny.
Almost took it to say like he was indulging in these things, but didn't lose control. Like he was conscious about everything he was doing, whether it was good or bad. I think it's kind of almost a different point. But that kind of losing control is the way I put that.
Yeah, but do you think that really makes sense? Do people typically stay in control when they go ahead, Daniel first and Rodney?
I was just going to say, like, a lot of these things that are listed in Ecclesiastes 2, they're things that leave you even more empty after you try them. Like, you go searching for something, but then they get you in trouble, or they get you in a place where you're even worse off than you were. So that's something to be conscious of as well.
Rod?
That's what I was going to say. Maybe his heart, wisdom guided him after the hangover, and all the results of emptiness, like saying I did.
But when we think about this in modern terms, just kind of these two tied together, what picture does society paint for us?
Commercials.
Oh yeah, and you want to have a good time, what do? Get with your buddies and start drinking, right? And you're gonna have the best time ever. Yeah, that's the picture that's painted for us. Again, because that's a way Satan's tempting, isn't it? It's this, people are searching, and this is presented. Oh, look how good it is, or if you're going to have fun, this needs to be included, right? How can you have fun without this being included? Is what the world will try to influence us. Go ahead, buddy.
That feeling after the wine doesn't last forever. You need that feeling again, so you got to drink more wine. So the laughter, the joke that I laughed at, I didn't laugh at it for the rest of my life. It was short. It was vain. What's everlasting?
Yeah, that's right, and that's where we're headed. All right, let's continue in verses.
Jeff,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
the verse that struck me too is that very last line says, when you get to mine, you realize how true that is during the few days of their life.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, we're not here for very long, even though when we're younger, we probably think we are, and we want to spend it doing the right things. All right, as we continue in verses 4 through 7 here, now he turns to now stuff that we wouldn't consider wrong. But what's he talking about here? Possessions, building stuff, right? Okay, well that didn't work. Let's go out and build houses and plant vineyards and gardens and parks, and let's make pools to water the forest. And then we'll get into this verse 7 here in a second. But yeah, so now let's get into what about these kind of things? Still temptations today? Yeah. Yeah, I know. I remember, and I won't say where, but when Rodney and I were first married, and I just graduated college, we started going to church. Even in the church we attended, that you could kind of tell there was this. Well, do you have? There was this. Well, there was the didn't have a house bunch. Then there's the people that have the houses bunch. Then you threw in kind of houses and kids. We're kind of, and it almost made us feel a little. Well, who are we? We're living in an apartment. Does that make us less of a person? But even in the church, this kind of thing can come up, can't it? Where people are trying to fulfill themselves through what they have and what they've done, and obviously that's not a positive thing, and not a way we should be edifying one another. Not that there's anything wrong with it again, right? There's nothing wrong with accomplishments and doing things, but as we go through this, we got to all keep it in the context of using it to serve God and to the glory of God, not trying to fulfill ourselves in some way by these things. Anybody have any comments on 4 through 6? On building and making stuff? All right, then in verse 7, I bought male and female servants and had slaves who were born in my house. I also had great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been before me in Israel. So what's he telling us now? He was the richest guy around. Right? He had slaves, he had flocks, he had money, he had more than anybody else. But in the end, it didn't fulfill him. And what do you think? What are the dangers that come with verse 7? Bart?
Self-reliance.
Exactly. Yeah, and even in our country in general, that I would just sometimes things stick with you. I remember sitting in Cheddar's. This has been years ago, and somebody was in the booth behind us or next to us or whatever, and they were talking about counting on the government to take care of them. I'll get health care. The government will give me health care. And I know, and it was just, and they'll, Social Security or whatever, but it was this reliance on things of man to take care of them. It just kind of struck me when I heard the conversation. But how many people behave that way? Will trust in those kind of things, and where do they leave God? Just sitting out somewhere and not even consider him. So as Art said, the danger here is the self-reliance of moving away from trusting in God and starting to trust in ourselves to be able to satisfy and maintain and carry on our lives without, I don't need God. I've got all of this that can fulfill this for me. So anybody have any comments on verse 7? All right. And then he continues here in verse 8 and 9 with more of that kind of stuff. Silver and gold, treasure, singers, concubines, so that I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Israel. And then again, verse 9, but also my wisdom remained with me. And again, maybe he kind of restrained himself, but when we study his history and look at him in context, especially when the concubines started getting involved, what happened to Solomon? Yeah, he got drug off into all their gods, didn't he? Again, I'm not sure how his wisdom stuck with him, but he for somebody that should have known better, well, I guess all of us should know better, though. But he sets a little higher, should have had a little higher standard. But he got involved with these things, again, that were instead of fulfilling him and bringing him closer to God, they were pulling him away. Right, Tricia?
This may be completely not what he means at all, but it just occurred to me, maybe what he means by my wisdom remained with me is that even in all this searching and trying all these things, wisdom kept telling him, this is not where it is.
That's a good point. But he went on with it anyway, didn't he? So, yeah, that's a good point. Buddy?
We have no indication that just because this didn't do anything for him, he got rid of them. It houses, but I got rid of them. We don't have that knowledge of what you did with it, you kept it, even though it didn't do any good.
Of course, I mean, the reality is, we have all this vanity too, but we don't get rid of it. You know, I mean, you think about it, so it's a lesson of reality. All of us have, to some degree, most of these things, you know, or a lot of these things, but the lesson is how you address them, you know, deal with those things.
Yeah, and maybe verse 10 does come back in reflecting some of his wisdom. That was only, you know, and whatever my eyes desired to not keep from my heart, I kept my heart from no pleasure. For my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward. And somehow that I don't know that did his heart ever come back? In verse 11, then he does say that all is vanity and nothing is to be gained, even though after he provided his heart, all this stuff. But again, the point for us is to try to learn from this and not fall into the traps that he fell into. Again, what can happen if somebody has everything they desire, as he describes here? Whatever my eyes desired, I went and got it.
I wasn't going to answer.
Oh, I thought you were. Arrogance, arrogance. Never satisfied. Right? When does it end? And back to Art's point earlier, the self-reliance that can pull from this, but that after all the pleasures he's described so far, after all the possessions and the achievements, ultimately, what does he say? This is vanity. This is fleeting. It's fleeting. Chasing after the wind. These are fleeting things. Because, like Buddy said, maybe he didn't throw them away, but how long do they last? At least no longer than he lasts, right, on this earth. And they may not last. They may not last that long. So, anybody got any other comments on these verses? Go ahead.
I do like some of the things, like where he says, "This was my reward for all my toil." I think of things like, build a house. Oh, this house looks great. And then, the caulking is all needs to be redone, you like, oh, this is great, you have your reward, but it's something that you have to continue. You mow the yard and it looks great, and then the next thing you got to do it again and then again. But you can enjoy those moments. Aren't wrong to enjoy those moments, but you've got to put them in perspective.
Art, did you agree?
Yeah, I was just going to say my summary of this chapter, in a sense, as I kept reading through it, was it's a contrast. The possessions are the same, not the sinful stuff, but even in that I can see where he kind of said, I let my heart look after these things to try to find a way, but I don't know if necessarily he's describing that it was good to be sinful. I don't think he's saying that. But I think that there's a contrast because, like we just said, I mean, the truth is we live a more cush life than Solomon ever dreamt of living. And that's just the truth in this world. He didn't have air conditioning. He didn't have the things that we have. Now, we may not have the riches he did, but he didn't have access to the other things. So we can't really say, well, we don't live like Solomon did. In one way, we do. But I think that the contrast he keeps saying is the things you have may be good or bad depending on what your heart says. And in the end of the course of the whole thing, he says, you have wisdom and folly, you have light and darkness. Wisdom is light, folly is darkness. All these things can be either one to you. You want to put your heart in it, then it's darkness and folly. If you want to put God first, then it's wisdom and it's light.
Yeah.
So.
Very good point. Anybody else? Ready?
I think going on what Tricia said too, if he's talking about my wisdom remaining with me. I mean, he was raised, first day in the church, right? So it could be his conscience, fighting with him constantly when he's out doing these kinds of things. But also, if you think about it, his conscience is eventually going to go away if he continues repeatedly doing that, because that's something that we hear taught, right? Like,
Good point. That's one of the dangers of indulgence, isn't it? Well, I'll start just like you start just a little bit, and then you got to have more and more and more, and that's where it leads you. Buddy?
Paul gives us a good practical view of this. I count it all as rubbish.
Yeah, for Christ, right? All right, as we continue in verses. Oops. What am I doing wrong, Dean? Oh. Okay. Uh-oh.
He's not using the new one, is he?
Yeah.
It's the old one.
Is this not the new one? This one? Ah.
It just,
Oh, did it go? Okay. We'll see if this one works. All right, so now Art led perfectly into this. So now he says, I considered madness and folly. And, in verse 13, then I saw that there's more gain in wisdom than folly, and there's more gain in light and darkness. He's making this contrast about, he realizes that one is better than the other. And I like the way Art put it, in where you're placing your heart. Like where do you, if you're placing your heart into one versus the other, it's going to change what you gain. But what's kind of his ultimate conclusion here with the wise guy or the foolish guy?
Same things happen to both.
The same thing happens to both, which is what? They die, right? I mean, it's kind of, when he pulls all this down, the same event happens to all of them. Then verse 15, what happens to the fool will happen to me also. Why then have I been so very wise? And I said to my heart, this is also vanity. For the wise, as of the fool, there is no enduring remembrance, seeing in the days to come all will have been long forgotten, how the wise dies just like the fool. That says a lot, doesn't it? When you contrast, when you put that up against what a lot of people think, or the way a lot of people want to live, that are out to make a name for themselves and things like that. Ultimately, again, I think we talked about this last time. Ultimately, how many people are really remembered? A very few, right? A very few of all the millions and billions or whatever people that have lived. Seeing that in all the days to come, all will have been long forgotten. Is that depressing? It is if that's where your fulfillment is, isn't it? If your fulfillment is totally in building a legacy, or in the things that you've done, and again wanting to make a name for yourself, that's going to go away. And again, he says ultimately, how the wise dies just like the fool. So how do we make application of that for ourselves? Rodney, you gonna say something? You look like you're.
I keep throwing mixed signals at you now.
Yes. He's going like this. So,
I saw all this as a statement, like you said, from a purely secular standpoint. Life is folly. I mean, because it doesn't matter what you do. You either give it to somebody else, or you die and you can't enjoy it, and they forget that you did it. I don't know how many of us know who built the Empire State Building. It's still there, and it's pretty impressive. But, some of you, being an engineer, you might know, but most of us don't. Most folks, and I think about that, and I think there is a lower level of a real struggle that we all face, of the futility and the sense of life, and that you can't hold on to it. It's going to be lost, but I think he's showing that struggle is a real problem when you're just approaching life like he's been doing. It's not going to work. It's empty, and it's why people despair of life and really just they just take their own lives. They can't see value in it.
Danny?
Just gonna
Daniel?
There's only one record book that will never be forgotten, and that's the Book of Life. Like, that, you know, we can get our name in the Guinness World Records, but like Rodney said, there's always going to be, you know, things that are great, but they're forgotten. But God's not going to forget us, and if we lay up our treasure in heaven, we'll have that, and that can't be taken away.
Daniel?
Just that, this is not, it's not about our life here on earth.
And I think there's 13 says it, but there's more gain in wisdom. That's the best.
Yeah, and thank you, Daniel. That was exactly what I was going to ask next. It's like, well, is there a place we won't be forgotten? And the answer is yes, and that's with God in heaven in eternity with Him. Which again, that's what should be our perspective setter. Right? When we think about all this stuff, and all that he talks about, the perspective setter has to be God and eternity and the promises that are there, because they truly are eternal and truly will last, where all the things that we deal with on this earth will not. So, anybody else have any comments on this? Jordan?
I don't want to jump ahead too much, but of course I'm teaching this in the high school class as well, so I know what happens. But the teacher here, the thing I try to do is I've tried to separate Solomon and Solomon's autobiographical life with the teacher, because you have this unknown author, and then this is the teacher speaking as well. So try to separate those two. Either talking about Solomon or Solomon talking about himself. So the teacher is teaching us things under the sun. So this is all kind of coming from a worldly perspective. But to sum up these verses, I'll look at verse 24, because I'm teaching chapter 2 on Wednesday, and he sums it up just by saying, like I said, I don't want to jump ahead, but there's nothing better for people to eat and drink and find enjoyment in their work. But he also perceives that this ability to find enjoyment only comes from God and through God. So if you don't have that in your life, then it's definitely meaningless, or pebble, the Hebrew word there, just means smoke. You just can't grasp it. And you're never going to be able to grasp it apart from God.
Yeah. So. Oh, good point. And yet, to what he's talking about, the earlier we can learn that in our life, the better off we're going to be, right? So I think it's great to teach this to kids, especially at that age, when they're thinking about what am I going to do for a career, and again, what can I do to get to make a name for myself, and how we need to keep all that in the context of God if we truly want to be fulfilled. Anybody else on this set? All right, so then he gets into kind of some conclusions about, I hated life. I hated all my toil, which I've toiled with under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool. Yet he will be the master of all which I told and used my wisdom under the sun. This is also vanity. And this, Rodney brought this. I thought about this in my own life, of how sometimes we take things a bit too seriously. An example I'll give is a house that we had previous to when we lived earlier in our lives, we had lots of landscaping. And I spent lots and lots and lots of time keeping that landscaping pretty much meticulous. And so, so we sold the house, and somebody else moved in. A year later, what do you think all that landscaping looked like? I rode by the house, and I was just like, oh, yeah, but I thought when I was reading this, I was thinking about that. But what was I doing? I put a little bit too much fulfillment into that. Look how good I've got this landscaping looking. And the next person was like, it didn't had no interest in it. But again, it comes back to that's just life, isn't it? That's totally just life. We can put so much into stuff in a job or in a house it doesn't mean anything in the long term. But to Jordan's point, we'll get to it here on the next slide, though. But if I keep that in context and don't get too caught up with it, is there anything wrong with me enjoying doing some landscaping or enjoying caulking, if you like to caulk? No, nothing, right? And that's really the point he's getting at, is if we can keep all this stuff in the right context and keep God engaged, then it becomes good for us, not bad for us. It's good to have something to do. Right? And again, there's nothing wrong with having nice shrubs or nice grass or whatever, and a clean car, or whatever it is you get into that you can spend your time doing, that as long as you keep it in the right context, it's not a waste. It's not being used in an improper way. Then he goes into verse 20. So I turned about, gave my heart up to desire over all the toil of my labors of sun, because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who do not toil for it. This is also vanity and a great evil. This was really getting on him, wasn't it, as far as thinking about this. But that's just when you're placed in the wrong spot, and you're letting yourself be fulfilled by the wrong thing, then these things do become too much of a big deal for us, because our focus is in the wrong spot. And it's for all the days are full of sorrow. All his work is a vexation. Even in the night, his heart does not rest. This is also vanity. So this is the dilemma that we can get in if our focus is wrong. So, do you have a comment? Anybody have any comments on this? All right, now we get to the conclusion. And actually, Art used this in the Lord's Supper last week, so we're ready to think about this. So I want to read this one again. I think that these 3 verses are very good. There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? For to the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner, he has given the business of gathering and collecting, only to give to one who pleases God. This also is vanity and a striving after the wind. So again, what's his conclusion in this section? Daryl?
Your point, the context, which is just like, we have to realize that there's no fulfillment in these things, but God has given it to enjoy. And as long as we keep that in our mind, that this won't fulfill me, God is the only fulfillment, then we can enjoy those things. Yeah. They're not going to control us or have a hold of us.
Yeah, in a way that sometimes you can put it, when you're doing these things or you have these things, there's different ways you can use them, right? You can use them for the glory of God, or you can use them in an evil way. And we see that all the time too, right? Two people with essentially the same things, but that utilize them and focus on them completely different, because one is seeking to follow God and the other is not, and it makes such a difference. Jordan, were you going to say something else? Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of the opposite, though. Like, you can't enjoy those things that God gives you without Him.
Yeah.
That's the deal. It's like you're going to enjoy them in the wrong way, and it's going to end you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I got from the whole deal. It's like, apart from God, you're not going to be able to enjoy the things that He gives you in the right way.
Yeah. Very good point. Buddy?
Before I had the job that I have now, Rodney and I would go fishing. And the joy is going fishing. I mean, if I caught a fish, I was ecstatic. But the joy was going fishing, that time, that nothing, the toil.
Mm-hmm. And it was especially good if you caught more than Rodney, right? So, Art, would you have your hand up?
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, it is like, again, he says, in verse 24, that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. Everyone toils. We all work. We all provide. We all do the different things. The difference is you either, again, you're the one who pleases God with wisdom and knowledge, or you're the one who, your life is the business of gathering and collecting. And I thought, there's so many lives I see that's the business. The business is gathering and collecting and getting, and there, you can see the pursuit of the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And it is just, and as he says, and it just, all that gets taken away and given to the next person. And it's all emptiness. And but, you know, for the person, like Jordan said, the truth of enjoyment of all that God gives you is only found in the knowledge and righteousness of him. That's where you find the enjoyment. And it reminded me of, I don't know what, I think it was the last 4th of July, but we went and saw the fireworks, and they were going off, and Sam was there with Maggie, and he looks and he goes, look at the fireworks, and she's like, wow. And he says, look what God gave us. And I thought, that's the enjoyment that you can get out of that, is you look what God provided for us. He allowed us to be able to see things like this. And he saw that and expressed it. And I thought, that's the way we should look at life, is look what God gave us and enjoy that through God and through his eyes.
Very good point.
Isn't it, that first verse is so interesting, because that's as high as it gets, you know. There's nothing in this life, there's no greater pleasure than eating and drinking and enjoying the fruits of your labor, or than finding enjoyment in this world. That's it. If you look for something more, you know, that's where you're going to begin.
Yeah. I mean, this is a picture of contentment in the Lord, isn't it? Of being able to find, and I think Jordan, very good point. The only way you're going to find it is if you're putting God first and looking for the things that God does provide. The other way around does not work, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point that's being made here. Anybody else? We've got a couple of minutes left. All right, just a few. Go ahead.
I like eating and drinking. I think that's one of the most enjoyable things I do is when we get with brethren and have meals and stuff. That is just a very enjoyable time.
Yeah. Okay, so just a few things that I came up here. You guys are welcome to add. So pleasure, material success, wisdom, and toil are all ultimately meaningless when pursued as ends in themselves. And then lasting meaning is found only when life is viewed in relationship with God. Again, back to the points that have been made, that putting God first, and then understanding the things he provides and enjoying those things is absolutely fulfilling to us, and we'll find ourselves in a place where we are satisfied with this life as we look forward to the eternity that's been promised to us. And there's a key takeaway from it for us is just, you know, when we think about what we're doing, reflecting on our pursuits and success and wisdom, and back to what we've been said, what are we doing? Are we seeking our fulfillment in God, or are we seeking our fulfillment in these temporary things that we're dealing with, or putting so much time in our lives? And are we putting God first? Is pretty much the way to sum up that question. So, anybody else? We got 1 minute left. So, right. All right. Well, thanks everybody for your comments. Like I said, Rodney will be teaching chapter 3 next week.